Hi, I'm Nan Simonsen. I'm a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. I've been part of a lifestyle medical practice for, well, more than 7 years, and I teach whole food, plant-based nutrition and health. And I am very invested in the idea that lifestyle is medicine. I wrote my book about it, Aging Powerfully. I have a sequel coming out in December, Aging Powerfully, The Journey Continues. First one I wrote at 70. This one is being written just in time for my 75th birthday with that wisdom of the ages that I've learned in this past 5 years of continuing health and even getting stronger. So what am I doing here? Next week I'm doing Christmas, Thanksgiving here at the house. And I have some whole food plant-based people coming and some people who aren't. They'll bring what they're going to eat, turkey breast and pumpkin pie or whatever, and I'm making my things, and it just works. What I cook here though is whole food plant-based. So I have some onions I'm putting in a pan, and the recipe called for a tablespoon of oil. I don't add oil to my food for a number of reasons, even though olive oil is healthy. It's not healthy at high heat. That's not a good idea, and sauteing onions is going to get it hotter. So instead of that, I can add just a touch of broth. And a great way to saute them is to cover them, but I'm not going to do that because I'll be getting this done pretty quickly. And what recipe am I talking about? I'm so excited to find this. I found an entire Thanksgiving meal from Lov'n Vegan, and this will be her main dish. It's the main dish of that Thanksgiving meal. So you can bet, I am going to cover it. So you can bet that it's good, or she wouldn't have put it out there, but it's really interesting. It's a meatloaf, and I've done bean meatloafs, and I've done grain meatloafs, and I've done, well, lentil meatloafs, which are beans, but this is different. This has some really interesting ingredients and a twist on it, and that twist is you need to make it in advance because it comes out soft, as she says, and then firms up 2 to 3 hours later in the refrigerator. Isn't that interesting? So this will allow me, well, I'm going to heat it up later today. I don't need the entire meatloaf for my husband and me, and I'm going to do some marvelous sauteed oyster mushrooms along with it, and some, well, leftover pasta with a nice sauce that I'll put on the side. So that would be our meal. And but I for sure wanted to try it before I offered it to my crowd at Thanksgiving, even though I believe it's going to be wonderful. So I'm bringing you along with me for the experiment. I like having you with me when I'm cooking. And this is softening nicely. Okay, why do we do that? Because onions have a really strong flavor, and they have a bite to them if you don't gently pre-cook them. Now, part of the recipe that I began before I'm saying hello to you is that one of the interesting ingredients is potato, big potatoes. Now, this is one of the smallest that I got. The other two were about 14 ounces each, 13 ounces each, and I have 2 of them. The instructions were to peel them, cube them, put them in salted boiling water, about 15 minutes, and test them for doneness, then drain them. We don't want to turn them into mush, especially if they are a baking potato, because they can really get soft and kind of fall apart. I'm going to add garlic to this while I'm talking, because after the onion softens a bit, we add garlic, but we don't want the garlic to brown, or it does what? It gets bitter. And she called for 3 cloves. I'm going to use 2. I really like garlic. And add a little more broth. Let this cook with, I'll add the celery now. And let these things soften while I talk to you. Okay. Again, no oil. And so for one thing, it's because olive oil, it doesn't do well heated. It's fine if you pour it over things, but I don't even do that. I see no point to add 120 calories to something that is that small. And when you get older, and when you don't get older, you can save thousands of calories, hundreds a day, by not putting oil in everything people say needs oil. And just eat the food the way it is. That's called caloric density, or a lack of caloric density, because oil is the most calorically dense thing you can eat. So no oil for that reason. The other reason is all the seed oils, all of the grain oils, almost all of them have are really high in omega-6s, and we're trying to optimize the anti-inflammatory omega-3 fatty acids. And we just get too many of the 6s in the processed foods, because everything we get at the store is going to have oil. They are all high in omega-6s. We as Americans are way, way, way too high in omega-6s. So what am I going to do now? I'm going to move this back and keep it cooking. And I'm going to mash. Can I do it? Yes. I just drained the potatoes. Let me get them closer to you. Not that you can't imagine what cubed, cooked potatoes look like, but the point here is that I'm also, unlike a lot of these recipes, I'm not, put this in front of me, I'm not using a food processor. I'm not turning it into a mash. I have a couple of, well, yes I am, but not turning it into almost a paste the way I would in a food processor, even with pulsing. So I have the little one. I love this little one for small things, but I'm gonna use the larger one. Okay, and the instructions are to mash the potatoes, but roughly. And then to add, let me get this straight. All right, and then to add the onion after it's been cooking a while. No, we've done that. Stir. Okay. This is, well, this we've done. I can leave it alone, and let me get back to this. Now, that's where I add all of this. And there's a lot of spices in this recipe, and sometimes that can be a real nuisance to have too many ingredients, but you know what? It's not a big deal. I put out the measuring spoon size of the food that I was going to put in. So, and I'm going by her recipe. So thank you, Ella Vegan, and I will, when I print the recipe, I'll tell you anything I changed. So this was 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Some of you are completely SOS free. I am salt low, but not salt free. But processed sugar and oils, added oils, I am, you can say I'm SOS free in that way. And then we have a 1/2 teaspoon of, what is this? This is paprika, and this is thyme. Now when I use a kind of a nubby spice, I like to do this to break it up a little bit, especially thyme. It can have those sharp little pointy leaves. Okay. And then I'm using, oh, there it is, a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin, great spice, kind of earthy. And then a 1/2 teaspoon of caraway seed. That was new. And caraway, I'm going to break this up, but it won't break up well because it's they are harder seeds, but that's okay. I felt compelled to do that anyway. And a 1/2 teaspoon of onion. And what I did is I just went up to my spice counter, or spice, it's actually a rack, this is Tupperware. And then 1/3 of a teaspoon, these were all halves, 1/3 of a teaspoon, and that's just eyeballing, of chili pepper, the flakes. Okay. In addition, I'm going to add to this saute some balsamic vinegar. Put the heat a little higher so it'll bubble. But I want to toast these spices first. When you toast spices in a pan that is somewhat dry and has other ingredients, oh my goodness, the aroma just waits up at you. Okay, now I'm adding balsamic vinegar, and I'm going to add tamari. The tamari has umami, and it could be soy sauce. It could be Bragg's Liquid Aminos. I use tamari because it's gluten-free. And that was, so it was balsamic vinegar and tamari. I'm gonna cook this up. We're gonna then add it to the potatoes. You can see how quickly this goes. The time spent might have been peeling and chopping, but even that was nominal. I have my oven heated to 375, but I've come to realize that my oven is a little bit, I guess I can call it slow. In other words, it doesn't heat, it doesn't cook the way I think it should at the temperatures that are usually recommended. So if it says 375, I'm going to do it at 380, and that's what I set it for. Okay, I believe that's that. Okay, now I'm going to add some more ingredients. I'm going to add black beans. Let me make sure I'm doing it where I'm supposed to. Okay, we cooked that 3 to 5 minutes, stirring occasionally, and then add the beans and turn off the heat. After a minute, but, well, yeah, let's leave it on for a minute, just to heat it. And so what this is a couple of cans of black beans. So where do we get our protein in this recipe? We get it from the black beans. We're also going to get it from oatmeal, and you'll see that in a minute, and some walnuts, and some potato. Potatoes are 10% by caloric value protein. So for every 100 calories of potato, you're getting 10 grams of protein. That's pretty good. Did I say that right? Is that correct? If they're 10% protein, does it work that way? That may not work that way because a gram of protein is 4 calories, so you may have to divide that by 4. Anyway, I'm just talking and mixing and probably all. All right, now I'm going to empty what we just did here. See, isn't this interesting? Into this pan. I really want all the flavors. I love this. It's a silicone spatula, and so in essence, the sides and the front are like a spatula because they're soft. All right. And so I'm going to, before I kind of mash it lightly, let's see what they're saying. Transfer into the pot with the mashed potatoes, add tomato paste. Oh, here is, now why is my tomato paste in a square? I'll buy a jar of tomato or a can of tomato paste. I have silicone ice cube trays. They're square and they hold 2 tablespoons. Well, what do you think I do? Use a little bit of tomato paste for whatever the recipe says, like this says 2 tablespoons, and then smear it into those ice cube trays, freeze it, and take them out, put them in Ziploc freezer bags. And that's how I was able to pull out 2 tablespoons of tomato paste without opening a can or without rifling around hoping I had any. And so we've added the tomato paste, the oats, and walnuts. So I have a cup of oats, and the recommendation was instant oats because this is going to be the binder. And there are, and I'll put it in the recipe, the alternatives to the oats. But I'm going to mash this just a little bit use the masher or your hands and mix everything together. I'll use the masher because this is too hot at this point to use my hands. This is walnuts, a half a cup of walnuts. Doesn't this sound wonderful? So we're mixing all of this up. And then I'm going to pour it into a 9-inch bread pan. And this is what gets interesting. It goes in the oven for 40 minutes at 375. I'm doing it 380. And after it comes out, as she says, it's probably too soft to serve. Cool it and then refrigerate it a few hours. Well, I'm not putting it right in the refrigerator hot, so of course I'm going to cool it. And I'm planning on serving this for dinner, so I'll slice it. It makes 8 1-inch slices, a little more than 1 inch. And I'll heat those independently of the rest of the loaf. Now, what will I do next week for Thanksgiving? I'll just reheat the loaf on its own, bring it to room temperature, and then reheat it quickly. And this is looking really nice. It's becoming quite homogeneous. If it wasn't so hot, I think I would enjoy mashing it up with my hands. I think that would actually be ideal. This and this. Okay. I'm going to taste it because, I wanted to add fresh cracked pepper. So we have all the seasonings. Salt or salt substitute, pepper, some umami from the liquids, the balsamic, and the tamari, and the binding from the oats, the moisture from the cooked potato. Okay, here we go. And it's done. With this spatula, I want to make sure that there's no, yes, see, there's some dry ingredients at the very bottom in the corner. All right. What's perfect about this is I'll throw this in the oven. As soon as it's done, I'll be heading out away for most of the afternoon. And I'll get back just in time for it to have been cooled. Then I'll refrigerate it, and then I'll do our slices for dinner. Okay, let me show you what we have here. Look, see that? It looks a little like cookie dough, and it tastes that's really nice. Oh, I'd be double dipping. I won't do that. Okay. That was nice. You're gonna like this. Okay. I'm gonna put it in. I'm gonna press it well. And then there's a glaze. She has a mushroom, and I'm going to give you the link for her recipe. And there's a video there. She also has a mushroom gravy that she uses with this. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do the glaze, the tomato glaze, and I'll tell you about that. See, this is going to be a nice size meatloaf. The base broken up by whole beans because they were mashed to a degree, but very little. So what are you going to do for Thanksgiving? Or by the time you've seen this, actually, Thanksgiving may be over. What you do? And if you're plant-based, how did you accommodate everybody? Things like this accommodate people well. I was going to say, who doesn't like a meatloaf? My husband told me this torturous story about how he came to despise meatloaf so much because he hated his mother's meatloaf. That when it was meatloaf night, he wouldn't come down for dinner. And so he wasn't excited about the idea of my serving meatloaf for Thanksgiving. But I think he's going to like this. He likes all of my meat patties for hamburgers, so I'll just have to get his head straight. Okay. Get this in here. See, this will allow me to lift it out. And look. Ta-da. Put it into the oven. Give myself 40 minutes, and then I'll check it. Oops. Never mind, never mind. I just put something into it. Sorry to be walking away from you now, but I'll set the timer at 40 minutes. There we go. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this. And let me take you to the last thing, and that is the tomato glaze. And I love this. She is such a creative cook. The tomato glaze that goes on the meatloaf afterwards, or about 15 minutes before it's finished, and that's when I'm going to do it so that it becomes firm and cooked on it, is, and you're going to see the recipe, 1/4 cup of tomato paste. Well, where did I get my tomato paste? You know, from my bag of frozen tomato. If 1 cube was 2 tablespoons and 1/4 cup is 4 tablespoons, it was 2 cubes. So I took 2 cubes out, defrosted them, let them sit and defrost, added to this a little water to thin it out, and then some soy sauce, balsamic vinegar, a little bit of hot sauce, and a little bit of maple syrup. And this is going to be brushed on the top 15 minutes before it's finished. So Alexa, set timer for 25 minutes. Okay, that's that. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. I will be back to you to show you the meatloaf when it's finished. I'll show it to you sliced so you'll see just what you'll get when you make this. And if you enjoyed this, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe. Always subscribe. That way, not only do you know something is coming out, and they come out a couple things a week, but also it helps with the algorithm, and you can find this a lot easier. So that's all. Have a great day, because I will. And again, I'll be back, but it may be much later in the day. Bye-bye. I'm back, and it has been 2 hours since this was pulled out of the oven. It's actually cool. I'll put it in the refrigerator, but first I'm going to plate it so that you can see it, but I'm also going to plate it in a way that I can heat it up. This is a pewter, it's a safe pewter, it's not antique, and serve it nicely on that with some oyster mushrooms, some grilled oyster mushrooms that I do in a pan with some onion and lots of garlic, and they're just wonderful. And deglaze it with a little bit of vinegar. And we're going to have some beet greens. So we're going to have some greens, some mushrooms, this, and a little bit of pasta from the other night that has a tomato sauce on it. And I thought that would be a nice starch to go along with it, even though this is a highly starchy meatloaf. But this is how it came out. About 10 minutes before it was finished, I put the glaze on it that I described. I can pull this out now, and quite frankly, it was not that soft when I took it out. It was hard to tell, of course, because I didn't want to fool with it, but I can feel that it's still slightly warm. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to, how I'm going to do this. No, I'll put it in a proper freezer container. Let me pull that out. There we go. All right. It looks great. This absolutely, to some of my guests, looks like a meatloaf. There is a mushroom gravy, as I mentioned, with the recipe that she has posted, and it looks terrific. I just don't want to make that and mask it with a gravy. I want to have the flavors more pronounced, but next time I serve it, I may do that. I think that sounds really good as well. The meatloaf has a very firm texture. Well, I'm going to bring it to you on my hand. Look, 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 look. Doesn't that look good? Smells great. Well, since I'm already using my fingers, I'm going to try this. This is really good. A moist mushroom gravy would be great on it. I think what I'm going to be serving with it is going to be nice as well. This is quite good. I think it could actually, maybe I'm exaggerating, but I think that could actually fool some people into thinking they're having a meatloaf. Anyway, hope you like this. As I said, have a great day. I know I am. And tell me what you think. I have to put this down. Bye-bye.